Certain things Christians should stop saying. And a lot of them come out of times of sadness or crisis. Everything happens for a reason. Really? Carry that idea forward. What do we become? Puppets. Puppets pulled by the strings of God. Remember Flip Wilson dressed as Geraldine saying, "The devil made me do it"? Kids, you really missed something with Flip Wilson. Well, with this statement, you don't even need the devil. You can blame all your misdeeds on the big cheese. And while you're at it, blame God for disease, evil acts, wars. They're part of everything, right? This statement is really one of the worst ever. It's so harmful to faith. It makes people think God is awful, and it forgets the lesson we learn right away in the Bible in Genesis. We have free will. We can do what we want to do. God is not pulling all the strings. We really need to stop saying it. Oh, here's another. God needed another angel. Folks, if God is God and God needs an angel, God will make an angel. God's good at making stuff. Of course, we say this to someone to comfort them when they've lost someone, to remind them that that person is safe in God's presence, and of course they are. But again, the picture this paints of God, it's kind of ugly. Like God's this big kid who needs a new toy, and oh, there's Uncle Earl. None of us dealing with a death needs to see God like that. None of us needs to feel like God's needs were somehow greater than our own. Here's another. It's in the Bible. Okay, look, the Bible has to be interpreted. It must be interpreted in light of the grace and love of Jesus Christ. And then you've got issues of translation. For example, the King James Version of the Bible mentions unicorns 8 times. And I'm sure some of this is after Noah, just in case you started humming the unicorn song. Irish Rovers, they sing the unicorn song. The right translation of that word, though there's discussion about it, is probably wild buffalo, or maybe even rhinoceros, but hey, we could dream, right? So in case someone says, "Let's stone your disobedient kid," it's in the Bible. Remember, interpreted in light of the grace and love of Jesus. Oh, this one's great. God won't give you more than you can handle. Tell that to Moses. Tell that to the prophets. Tell that to anyone in crisis and then say, "But hey, it's okay. God is also love." This saying is taking something that St. Paul was told by God and using it completely out of context. I wish I could remember who recently said this because it's a great line, but I can't. The line is, the Bible is full of people who are experiencing more than they can handle. Funny thing about folks who live a basically peaceful life with enough to eat and few periods of crisis, they don't write stories about them. We write stories about people in crisis, even if those stories, especially if those stories, include God. And so often, the line, "God won't give you more than you can handle," gets coupled with the line that's in front of us today. "I know the plans I have for you, plans for good and not for ill." Hang in there, babe. Better days are coming. Now, if you were here last week, you might remember me saying that in our modern obsession with individual salvation, who's in, who's out, we get blinded to the fact that the Bible is often talking about corporate salvation, the saving of not just me, but mine. And right on cue, here's a perfect example. Why is this a horribly misquoted verse that we should stop saying to someone who's searching for their way in life, or someone who's having a crisis at work, or someone who's found out they're sick? Because one, you're using it out of context. Here's the scene. After all the warnings and attempts to correct Israel on the part of the prophets, including Jeremiah, Israel has been sacked by Babylon. And lest they rebound and rise up again, Nebuchadnezzar, Babylonian king, is smart enough to take all the leaders of Israel into exile with him into Babylon. So, a lot of Israel is now in Babylon, and this statement is addressed to them, to a people. This is a statement of corporate, group salvation. But before you go saying, hey, I should still say it to individuals because of rising tide and all that, 2, you're not paying attention to the whole statement. Good is coming, but only after a long, long time. God says, build houses, take wives, get spouses for your kids, take care of the city you're in. You're going to need your captors. Have babies, keep that line of Abraham going because, yes, you're going to be here 70 years. Translation? Israel will get saved. Yours are going to get saved. Corporate salvation is assured, but you're not going home. This is now your home. I know the plans I have for you, and they're probably not what you would choose. And yet these were probably still words of comfort, because Jeremiah was saying the kids will be okay, or at least the kids of your kids. Corporate salvation. In a time when tribe trumped selfishness, this was still good news. But maybe not something you want to write in a greeting card. God's plan, however you want to interpret it, is always to save. But as we see here, salvation sometimes has to wait until the next life. And in a world where there's free will, where people can decide to do horrible things, where nothing can protect us completely, where health can be fleeting, where mistakes and accidents can happen, they do. Bad things happen. And as Christians, it's our job to say, God's with you in this. God is crying with you in this. God will never leave your side. And in the end, it will be okay. Because in the end, it will be. God has saved us that salvation is forever, even if we have to wait till the next life to see it. In the meantime, remember, we are called to be a sign of God's saving presence in this life. Because when crisis hits, people don't want to hear trite statements. They don't want to hear platitudes. People need one thing, and one thing above all: love. Don't worry about what to say. Don't try to explain things that can't really be explained. Just love. That's the answer that counts. That's the answer that assures us God is there and that God will be there always.